Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important news from the sports card hobby. We'll have some debates, opinions, new release schedules, and info. Plus, we'll also discuss the sports that so directly affect the hobby we all love. We'll mix in an occasional gambling tip or two, throw in some life stuff, and bring you great guest interviews from the hobby and sports dignitaries. And if you're good listeners, we may even give away a few things now and then. Now, here's the guy who wanted the cards and not the gum, John Newman.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
Hello, Newman. Hello, Newman.
Hello, Sports Card Nation podcast listeners. Episode 27. Joining me on the program today to talk about Shoebox Treasures at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, is Jon Shestakofsky. He's the Vice President of Communications and Education at the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's going to talk about the new permanent exhibit. It's going to be displaying 2,000 cards. The hall has 2 million cards, so this is really 1% of their inventory. It's using new smartglass technology, which is designed to protect the cards from the light causing them to fade. There are some serious cards that will be on this exhibit called the Holy Grail. There's 10 cards that fit into that category. You could probably guess a few, famous cards in the hobby. They're going to be here at the hall. So John's been gracious enough to join the program to tell you a little bit about this new exhibit. It's definitely going to be a showstopper. It's going to be something that does bring people to the hall. John will tell you that it's been something that's been requested for a while now, and the halls is bringing it the people what they want. So cards and baseball have been synonymous since the dawning of both, and this is going to highlight that and illustrate that, and I think there'll be a lot of stories told in this exhibit, not only by people of the hall, but people who come there to see there. It'll bring back memories of cards of the past, cards when they were kids, and I think it's going to be a great thing. I can't wait to get there and see it firsthand myself. I want to thank Mr. Shestakofsky for making himself available. And, folks, when I started the show almost 7 months ago, one of the goals was to bring guests like John on of things happening in the hobby. And this is a huge event. I'm sure some of you probably wasn't even aware that this was happening. So bringing John on to highlight this, that's the kind of stuff we want to do here at Sports Card Nation, the podcast. I think that's the kind of stuff we want to do, and we'll bring cronies on and friends and whatnot. But I also want to bring on other people in the hobby that can bring some insight, some buzz, and that sort of thing. And I definitely think we did that today. Later on in the show, we're going to be giving away 3 Ohtani rookies. I'll announce the winner. So listen for that. If it's you, let us know. We'll get those out to you. We're going to answer your questions on Wide Open, our segment. We initially called it Open Mic, but we've changed it to Wide Open. It's an opportunity for you, the listener, to ask us anything you want us to answer on the air. Hobby related, non-hobby related, keep it clean. What do you think of this player? What do you think of this set? That sort of thing. Whatever you want to ask, hobby, sports related, it's an opportunity to get my answer, your feedback right on the air. If you go to the Anchor FM site, you can actually ask us vocally the question, and if you do it that route, we'll actually put you on the show itself.
Hey, oh, let's go. Hey, oh, let's go. Hey, oh, let's go.
We love our listeners. We know without you, there's no us. We care about your feedback and opinions and invite you to reach out to us at any of our social media accounts. You can reach us on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast. That's at Sports Card Nation Podcast. Or on Twitter at Sports Card Natty 1. That's Sports Card NATI 1. Or email us at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. That's sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We try not to ask for much, but if you are enjoying the show, we ask that you give us a shout out, tell your friends, spread the word, give us a follow on Instagram or Twitter, and we love positive reviews. So we'd appreciate if you took a minute and gave us a positive review on any platform you're listening to the show on. Thank you. Deep fried brakes. Active brakes all the time. Gearing up for a huge month of June with great new releases. As friendly and knowledgeable about the product as there is in the business. Super fast shipping too. Go check them out and tell them that I sent you, and Blake will be glad to give you a promo code off your first brake. Check out Deep Fried Brakes, deepfriedbrakes.com. All right, it's time for What's Crackin'. Let's head to the hobby happenings, and let's start off with the release schedule. A lot of products coming out. On the 24th, Leaf Valiant Football 2019. On the 29th, these are all products that release on May 29th. Quite a list here, so I'll just go in no particular order. 2018-19 Panini Nor Basketball. 2019 Panini Leather and Lumber Baseball. 2019 Panini Victory Lane Racing. 2019 Topps Definitive Collection Baseball. Extreme high-end product. I do love the stuff. I usually don't open it, but rather buy singles on the secondary market. But one of my personal favorite products. Also on the 29th, 2018-19 SB Authentic Hockey. So 29th is a big release day. Some products that released this past week. Score Football, a lower end product, but I will say, you know, I'm I am a Score Football fan. I like this year's product. It's kind of reminiscent, obviously, 30-year anniversary of the 89, and I think for a low-end product, it's actually not too shabby. Obviously, a lot of rookies, a lot of inserts, and I actually like the product. We're going to obviously do our year-end awards here on Sports Card Nation, and I think it's an early contender for low-end football product of the year, which will be one of the categories. It's early yet, so it'll have some competition, but I actually like the Score this year, and in comparative to the past year's releases, I think it's one of the better ones. So I give it a thumbs up. Panini Legacy is out. I haven't opened any of that, and the reviews I'm getting from people who have opened it or have gotten it into box breaks, it's either one or the other. They either love it or they hate it. There's really no in between. It's a mix of veterans and rookies and former superstars. So it's got kind of touches all the bases, if you will. What I've seen, it looks all right. I'm gonna abstain from giving a thumbs up or thumbs down. Haven't opened it, and frankly, I haven't seen enough to say either way. But I do plan on, I don't know about opening it, but probably picking up some singles on the secondary market. Topps has announced that they will be the silver pack promotions they do with a lot of their baseball products. They've stated that future releases, rather than have the silver packs be loose and the distributors or the secondary sellers including them with the purchase orders, they're actually going to put the promotional silver packs in the boxes sealed themselves. So if you buy the regular boxes where you get the one silver pack as part of the promotion, the silver pack will be sealed in that box already. And if you buy the jumbos, where you get two of those silver packs, those two packs will be sealed in the jumbo pack. So I'm wondering if they got a lot of complaints that some of the resellers weren't including these silver packs as part of the promotion and either reselling them or opening them themselves. I always got mine when I ordered them, but I order from the big wax sellers, very reputable, but there's other sellers as well, and I just wonder if they maybe were getting some complaints that collectors were saying they weren't getting their silver packs as they should. So this will eliminate that controversy with them being sealed in the boxes themselves and prevent an unscrupulous reseller, if you will, from kind of scheming the packs himself. So I think it's a good idea. Kind of eliminates the temptation to do that, and the purchaser gets what they're entitled to and what they should. Wander Franco cards out of the Bowman are continuing to sell for astronomical numbers. I've kind of gave my 2 cents on this. To me, if you're going to spend that kind of money, there's a lot of other ways that I go, direction-wise. Trout's obviously a safer bet, and there's even other guys I like better, but to each their own. But, it's just amazing what a guy in single A batting .300 with 4 home runs is bringing, all based on speculation. And, I've said this on my social medias. I'm not sure that Jesus Sanchez might be the best prospect in the Tampa Bay Rays farm system. So last weekend, me and my son did some spring cleaning a little bit in the garage and pulled out some of my old Munster boxes from way back when, just to see what was in there. I haven't looked in that area in a long time, so it was interesting to see what we'd find. Nothing earth shattering. Obviously, a lot of comments, but we did find a box of the '89 Topps. Not a sealed box, but opened pieces from the '89 Topps stand-up set. I think it was a test release. A little kind of stand-up paper cards, very thin, in plastic stand-ups, and the player would have their rookie card on one side and their '89 Topps card miniature on the other side. My son got a kick out of those. He didn't, obviously never seen them before. He asked if he could have some of them, the strawberries and Bonds and those guys from it. So I had forgotten all about those. I'm pretty sure they only made them that one year. So it's always fun to kind of go back into your boxes and see what you may have forgot about, or things that may have changed since the last time you looked, potentially value-wise or demand-wise. I found a pocket of '89 Hoops cards, and I looked in there to see if I had any of the Mark Jackson Melendez brothers cards. Somehow, some way, I didn't have a one, so I don't know if Michael J. Fox and Dr. Emmett Brown got in the DeLorean and traveled back here and pulled them all out before I could get to them, but I was a little surprised I didn't have not a one. So I thought for sure I'd find at least one there, but no such luck. And again, it was fun to go back and kind of, some of these totes and boxes I haven't really touched for double-digit years. So it's like I said, nothing earth-shattering, no diamonds in the rough, if you will. One tote had a lot of autographed minor league baseballs, and it's just, interesting to see how the balls have aged over the course of 15, 20 years and have turned colors, and some of the signatures have kind of faded out and that sort of thing. So it was kind of a fun hour with my son and telling stories about that set or that particular card or what this was all about. And that's, really that's kind of what the hobby should be all about. I've had numerous guests on the show that talk about the father-son relationship with cards, and me and my son have that. Even now he's 19 now, we still have that bond, that thread, and he's not a huge collector, but he'll open some stuff, and huge sports fan, so he knows all about that aspect of it. So again, it was fun kind of going in the garage into that corner, digging stuff out and going through. And if you have a corner of your basement or a corner of the garage like that, think about going over there and seeing what you got. And if you have a son or daughter or, a grandson that might enjoy doing that with you, it's really fun and something, a memory you can make. So think about that, doing something like that. All right, welcome to the Sports Card Nation podcast guest line. I'm real excited to have my next guest join us. His name is Jon Shestakofsky. He's the Vice President of Communications and Education from the Baseball Hall of Fame, one of my favorite places here in Syracuse. I'm fairly close, so I wind up going 3, 4, 5 times a year. They have a new exhibit called the Shoebox Treasures. It pertains to baseball cards over the many eras. It's brand new. It's getting set to launch, and Jon has been gracious enough to agree to join the program. Tell us, we're going to talk about that amongst other things. So, Jon, welcome and thank you.
Oh, thanks, John. It's an absolute pleasure to join you and talk to you and talk to all your listeners out there about baseball cards and everything that we have coming up at the Baseball Hall of Fame to celebrate the industry.
Yeah, and this, this new exhibit, it's the real deal. I've seen some figures. I'll let you speak to those rather than me. But before we even go into about Shoebox Treasures, for the listeners out there, what's your background when it comes to baseball cards? Were you a collector when you were younger? Do you still collect? Where are you at?
I'm about 35 years old, and I kind of came of age in the baseball era of the mid to late 80s card sets. Those are kind of like branded into my mind. And I have 2 brothers, and of course, growing up at that time, we were definitely spending our allowance money on baseball cards. And I have some great memories. I collected probably casually back then in the fun way that I'm sure a lot of your listeners remember, where you just throwing the cards around. My brothers and I had a little game where we'd put all of our new cards in a basket, and we'd rifle our hands through there, randomly picking one, and whoever had the special card or the all-star or the rookie card would win. So we played little games with no regard for the value of what we were handling. And then after that, kind of grew into thinking of it a little more as a collectible, and spent a number of years, looking at different card sets. I remember in the early 90s to mid 90s, spending a lot of money on those Flair cards. As they got glossier with more chrome designs and sturdier card stock. So totally ran the gamut there. And even in my past life working in the minor leagues, I was actually, it all kind of came full circle when I was in charge of creating our team baseball card sets for a few years with the minor league Red Sox team in Lowell, Massachusetts. So kind of run the gamut on baseball cards, but definitely have my memories and my favorites. And really, I think all your listeners know the one that I've seen the most of, and that's beautiful 1987 Topps.
Yeah. Yeah, and while it's not the most valuable set, John, it really is a classic. A lot of people love it. That wood grain border has a reminiscent of the the bat itself that the players obviously use. And while, like I said, it may not be the most valuable set, it's actually one of the most popular from the 80s.
Well, I love it. I can picture almost every player on that set, and growing up in the Boston area, Dwight Evans was my favorite player, and that record breaker card that had him hitting the home run on the first pitch of the '86 season, which worked out pretty well for the Red Sox, almost all the way. That's probably my all-time favorite card.
Yeah, and it's funny that the people that love that set, they all kind of choose a different card for a different reason. It's Bo Jackson's rookie year, so a lot of people like the Bo. It's Mark McGwire with the Gold Cup, rookie second year kind of card, and a lot of people pick that one. So it's one of those iconic sets that everyone likes, almost for kind of different reasons, which makes it that's what makes it what it's all about.
And that's the beauty of baseball cards, whether it's that Mark McGwire or Barry Bonds or the Bo Jackson Future Star. Everyone connects with the game in a different way, and everyone has their own memories and their own nostalgia. But I think so many of us grew up around that time, rifling through this series and this set of cards. It brings everyone together in a really neat way.
Yeah. So you got this Shoebox Treasures. I know it launches May 25th, so we're literally a week away. When this show actually airs, it's literally going to be the next day. So really kind of tell the listeners, John, kind of how this thing got off the ground, where it started, and what work went into it to here real close to launch day.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. The support that we've seen from people in baseball and our visitors and just baseball fans has been just tremendous on this subject. And it kind of dates back more than 10 years. We actually used to have a display of baseball cards in the museum. It was nothing like what this exhibit will be, but it was kind of a display talking a little bit about
I remember
industry. That came down a little over 10 years ago, and since then we have had people come back saying, I wish there was that baseball card display, because it did resonate with so many of our visitors. And when we ask folks, hey, what do you think of the Hall of Fame? Everyone's blown away. 3 floors of exhibit spaces to tell the complete story of baseball from the 1800s until now, touching on all sorts of different topics, in addition to the Hall of Fame with all the plaques. But folks do say that they'd love to see something about baseball cards. And it's probably the number one request that we have had from our visitors over the last 5 or 10 years. So this really started with a fundraising campaign to design and then to build and maintain the exhibit moving forward. This is going to be a permanent exhibit in addition to about a dozen other exhibits in our museum. And after that fundraising campaign, it was just tremendous to see museum members, folks who haven't been donors to our not-for-profit educational museum in the past. There's just been such a grassroots groundswell of support for this, and donations in all sorts of amounts. In addition to some major generous donations from folks in the baseball community like Ken Kendrick, Glenn Doche, Bill Janicek, but all that together really helped us understand not only can we financially put this together, but how successful it would be, because there's such a great passion for this topic and for the idea of looking at the game's history, But really, you can't look at the game's history and its popularity without examining baseball cards.
Yep, I think they go hand in hand. And like baseball is kind of a family thing, a father-son, a grandfather-grandson thing, going to the game. I think cards fit that mold as well. A dad or grandfather, going to the corner store back in the day and buying a pack of cards and opening it and going through the pack and looking at the players and talking about them, and maybe the dad or the grandfather sharing a story about that player, something they can relate to. And so I think they always have kind of been hand in hand with each other. And I think most baseball fans either still collect baseball cards, or at least they did at one point. Even if they don't any longer, they kind of did at one point. So they have that connection to it, which I think is why you like you mentioned, you get a lot of feedback. Hey, there's no cards, or we want to see more cards, and here we are, with Shoebox Heroes. How many cards can people expect to see when they see this exhibit?
Well, I'll tell you that in 1 second, but
Okay.
You're exactly right with the generations connecting, and that's really part of our motto here. We talk about preserving history, honoring excellence, and connecting generations, and all of that can be said for baseball cards. And so some of the best moments of my career at the Hall of Fame have been watching those families connect and talking about a player from the past and how it connects to the history that's being made on the field today. So I think that's exactly correct. And you're right, like Shoebox Treasures is the name of the exhibit. And, what that means to me is that, every 5 or 10 years when I go home and my dad pulls out his own shoebox of old baseball cards, and that's some real great quality time that we spend on the topic of baseball, where he gets a chance to tell me all about the players that he loved and how he interacted with baseball cards back then. And, of course, in the 50s and 60s, it was a different world, and he was doing all sorts of things with cards that, we don't want to hear anymore. And we talk about that in this exhibit. You're going to see about 2,000 cards. A lot of them are in pull-out drawers that fans will be able to come in and kind of explore on their own. Cards for every Hall of Famer will be included. And we're also going to have 10 Holy Grail cards, is what we're calling them. Mm-hmm. And these are kind of the more valuable, the kind of really super special cards that every collector would want to have in their collection. And we actually haven't revealed all of those yet, but just suffice it to say, those are going to be cards that you're going to want to see. Some of those were loaned to us from other major collectors, and of course are extremely valuable. And we actually have some other really cool technology that is helping to protect those cards from light. So there's actually going to be some what we call smartglass from a company that does these types of things. It's darkened glass where when you press a button, an electric current runs through it and lightens it up so you can see through to the card that's inside. So that protects the card over time from light damage, and also allows folks to see it. So we're really excited about the technology, the interactivity, and just the breadth of the display. 2,000 baseball cards from our collection are on display, but that's really only a small percentage of what we have. It's about 1% of the baseball card collection that's part of the museum. So can't obviously show everything, but it's a really terrific overview of what we have in the museum.
Yeah, and John, is this an exhibit that's going to change over the course of time? Maybe there'll be, new cards, and are modern cards going to be represented as well?
Yeah, it's going to run the gamut. So we certainly have some old cards, and we will have modern cards represented. And over time, there will be an opportunity for some of those drawers of cards to be kind of interspersed with new and important cards that pop up in the future. This exhibit is, like I said, it's a permanent exhibit. It's going to be here for a while, so we'll be ready to accommodate the next generation of cards.
Yeah, and I know I heard a rumor, I'll have you either confirm or done, that there's going to be, people in the hobby know of the grading cards, PSA, Beckett grading, that examine the cards and give it a rating based on its condition, and I heard that those will be represented as well.
Yeah, part of the exhibit definitely talks about, how this industry turned in from a hobby into more of a collector memorabilia side of things. So that story is definitely touched upon. I mean, this is an industry that's almost 140 years old, and started with trading cards that didn't have anything to do with baseball. But it's really a lot of fun to learn about the history of how it turned into baseball cards. At first the cards were the throw-in with a purchase of something like tobacco.
Yeah.
And then 60, 70 years later, the gum is a throw-in with the purchase of the cards. So it's really come full circle in that way. But yeah, we go into that whole history from the early days of card collecting all the way to what we have now, and the different ways people have interacted with baseball cards in that time. So there is some fun stuff that people will be able to do interactively. I mentioned the 2,000 cards on display, which is just 1% of our collection. There's also visitors and listeners of a certain age will remember putting baseball cards in the spokes of their bike. Did you ever do that? Do you remember that?
I'm 46, so I'm older than you are. But no, I didn't do that. But like you said, we threw them around. You know what I mean? We chucked them, and so condition. We weren't worried so much about condition as much as just who was on the player, and we used to just play games with them and trade and just kind of bang them around. Not
exactly.
Like today.
And we talk about the different games people played with their cards. And we also we do have a bike that's up on the wall with cards in it, and we're going to give people the chance to spin it and hear that sound again. I think cool. That's going to be a lot of fun for, like you said, for fathers and grandfathers to tell their kids and grandkids, how they used to play with cards, and what they thought of the hobby back then. So those are fun. We're also going to have something that's really cool, kind of make your own virtual baseball card area, where you'll be able to enter your team and your name and have a picture taken, and it'll email to you versions of your photo in different, tops designs of different eras over the years. So that'll be a fun little takeaway for folks that make it into the museum. And then those Holy Grail cards are going to be a lot of fun too. So, like I said, there's a lot of interactivity and a lot of different things to see. The history, talking about how it turned into a collector's marketplace, the way different people have interacted with baseball cards. There's a lot of great stories to tell.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're going to see people at the exhibit. Maybe older people say, "Man, I remember I had that card. Like you said, I put it in my bike spokes. I had that. Man, I wish I still had it. Look at it today." And if I knew then what I knew now, type of lines. And
how many people are going to say, "My mom threw that card away. Mom threw that my whole shoebox treasure was thrown out the window by my mom when I went to college," or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what you want. You want that's what it's all about, is those memories. Even though it's not the greatest memory in the world, it's still a memory, and it brings them back to a time and era that that was enjoyable, and they can relive that, so to speak, again.
Yeah, totally. It's fun to be able to bring that back to. Bring that back to people, and like we said, let them share it with the younger members of their family.
So the cards that will be on display, John, does the Hall, these are all belong to the Hall, or will some be on loan?
Yes, great question. So the vast majority are from the Hall of Fame's own collection of nearly 200,000 baseball cards. But there are some that have been provided on loan. Like I mentioned, some of those 10 Holy Grail cards, which are going to be revealed over time, heading towards the opening of this exhibit in about a week's time, a week plus. Some of those are on loan to us, and we're very, very thankful to the loanees, the loaners who are allowing us to display those. And we're also working with the company PWCC to provide some of the cards from their vault that will be on display in Shoebox Treasures as well. So there's a combination, but like I said, the majority of the cards are coming from our collection, which spans many years, all the way throughout the history of the industry. And even in our collection, we have examples from obviously outside of the United States. We have other sports. We have non-sports cards in our collection. And really, again, to tell the story of baseball cards, you kind of have to expand and tell the story of collecting and tell the story of trading cards in general. So that's kind of the way we're looking at it.
Yep. Well, I tell you what, like you said, it's interactive. It's kind of hands-on. A lot of times exhibits, everything's behind glass and you just kind of look. Not that there's anything wrong with that either, but with this, like you said, the drawers pull out, so it's a little bit hands-on. I think people will kind of appreciate that with the technology, some of the new technology where the UV light won't cause the cards to fade and still be able to see them as well is going to be neat. I'm sure that'll get people talking as well. Obviously, I go to the Hall 3, 4, 5 times a year. I look at everything. But for those who want to hit that exhibit first before hitting everything else, where in the Hall can they find it exactly?
The Shoebox Treasures exhibit is on the 3rd floor, so you'll head up the stairs to the 3rd floor, and it's kind of, you have to walk through a couple other exhibits. One is about ballparks, the next one is about baseball records and Autumn Glory, about the World Series of past. And that's where you're going to find Shoebox Treasures. It's hidden away a little bit, but just like the shoeboxes that are in our parents' and grandparents' closets.
Yep, it's a metaphor for real life, And Shoebox Treasures, I know I'm excited to see it. I'll be making a trip to definitely check it out. I know a lot of others will. I hope those listening to the show, maybe who didn't even know about this yet, maybe we're kind of breaking news, so to speak. I'm sure they'll be excited as well. Again, I think the bond between baseball cards and the sport itself is really unbreakable, and it'll always be. And I know I don't have to tell you this, John. I think Shoebox Treasures is going to be a huge hit, a huge success, and even another thing to draw people to the Hall. Not that you have any trouble doing that, but this will just, to me, enhance that even.
Yeah, well, thank you. We're tremendously excited about it. We've heard from so many folks and so many people who've contributed to make this come to fruition. So we know there's a lot of interest, and we're looking forward to seeing folks who've been here before. It's a great reason to come back and check out the museum and the Hall of Fame. But if you haven't made it to Cooperstown, here's just another of many reasons to find a way to knock that off your bucket list.
Oh, yeah. So, Shoebox Treasures, folks listening, May 25th, the Baseball Hall of Fame, Cooperstown. It definitely sounds like it's going to be a big-time attraction in the Hall amongst everything else they have in the history of the game. It's just going to be, like you said, all that more special. So, I want to thank Jon Shestakofsky Vice President of Communications and Education from the Hall, for giving us his time today and sharing with us some of what to expect. I know he didn't, he told you there's some Holy Grail cards that are kind of going to be revealed slowly. So he didn't let all the cats out of the bag, but that's fine. It builds up the suspense and the drama, and who knows what we'll get to see.
Well, John, thanks so much for having me. I love talking about baseball cards in this exhibit. And when this episode does come out, folks can go to our social media channels at Baseball Hall, so on Twitter or Facebook at Baseball Hall, and we are revealing them slowly, the 10 days prior to the exhibit opening. So they'll see most of them by that time, and I think and I hope they'll be pleased with what they see. But thanks for having me. Really appreciate being on the show. And hey, John, look forward to seeing you your next trip to Cooperstown.
Oh, no doubt. Now, like I said, I think from a selfish reason, I think that's why I asked you where it was, because I'll probably head there first.
Perfect. Well, let me know. We look forward to seeing you.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
The Sports Card Nation podcast website has been revamped. It's more interactive with a live chat feature. Also has forums and message boards. And now the front page has upcoming podcast news and events, and also a yearly release trading card calendar. So you know what's coming out when, so you can target your next purchase. And we've made it very easy to get to. Just type in bit.ly/SportsCardNationPC. That's bit.ly/SportsCardNationPC.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
All right, it's time for Wide Open, our question and answer segment we started last episode. An opportunity for you, the listener, to submit questions that you want to hear me answer on the program itself. I picked two more for this week. We've received some submissions. I appreciate that. I want to make this show interactive. We haven't got any of the voice ones through Anchor, so we'd love to have you ask one actually via voice, and we'd put you right on the air if you do it that method. But we do have a couple questions submitted via text-wise, and I picked two good ones and one I really like. The first one comes from Instagram from David, and he wrote, "You seem to like Trae Young more than Luke Doncic. Why is that?" I think they're both good young players. It's not so much me thinking Luka's terrible or anything like that. I just think, to me, Trae Young's a more dynamic player. Conditioning-wise, I think, not that it's all about that, but I think he's in better shape. I think he's just a more well-rounded player, and I think he's on the team where he's really the number one player on that team, and I don't think Luka's kind of a number one. It may not be the greatest analogy. It's like pitchers in baseball. Good pitcher, but he's really a 2, 3, 4 type guy. He's not a top level ace number one, top of the rotation guy. And as great a year as Luka had, I don't see him really as that kind of number one guy. I think he's sort of a sidekick piece sort of thing. And again, I could be completely wrong. I think conditioning is kind of worrisome there. I think he's a very good player. I'm not knocking him. I'm just more of a Trae Young guy. I think he can do a little bit of everything. He's a scorer. He can heat up. And another guy I like, if you listen to the show, I'd put right there with Young is Marvin Bagley Jr. So again, it's just a personal preference. It's not me saying Luka's terrible, but I think long term, when I look at players and cards, I don't think just in the moment. I think years from now, and I think if you're looking down the line, I think I would rather have, if it's the same card, I think I'd rather have the Young or even the Bagley Jr. Over to Jon Shestakofsky. And I know people might hear that and say, "Are you nuts?" And I know there's a lot of hype this year, but again, the key word that I said is long term. Obviously, opening any of the current year's product, you hope you hit that Jon Shestakofsky, and you're definitely not disappointed when you do. But I'm not having tunnel vision and just looking at right now. I'm also thinking 3, 4, 5, or longer years down the line, who might be better to have then, not necessarily now. And I think I put Young and Bagley Jr. ahead of them. Maybe some would disagree. That's fine. You can always give me your feedback if you do. That's a personal opinion. So the next question comes from Mike on Twitter, and I love this question. He says, one card you can never afford but want. So I'll answer that like this. I'll put some of my own stipulations on it. I think when you factor grading in, that obviously, if you want something that's PSA 8, like a vintage card, it's going to make it harder to obtain and definitely more expensive. So I'll put a qualifier on it. I'll answer this about a card in raw form rather than in graded form. So a card I think it's probably many people's standard answer. I'd like to get a really decent 52 tops Mano. Obviously, I would prefer graded, but even the raw ones are obviously bring quite a bit of money. So I don't think it's ever something. You never say never, but in the near future, unforeseen future, I don't ever really see me acquiring it. I have a lot of other cards kind of that are more in range that I would probably purchase before rather than not buy anything and just save up money. One of my goals this year is to get a Jackie Robinson rookie, so I would probably make that purchase ahead of any kind of Mano purchase, just based on the fact that it's something I kind of want a little bit more, and it's probably it'll be a lot more easier to obtain and cost less to do so. So I think it's the old standby 52 Mano, that iconic card, and so that'll be my pick. I know it's probably the boring standard answer, but I'm answering honestly. You asked, I gave you my honest answer, and I love the question because it really ties in with Jon Shestakofsky being on the show today and talking about the new Shoebox Treasures exhibit at the Cooperstown at the Hall of Fame. So, and it's a safe bet that card will be one of the 2,000 cards on display. In their case, not mine, unfortunately. So. For over 25 years, Newman Sports Cards has set the standard in customer service in the sports card industry, including same-day shipping. They've added supplies and some wax products to their already great arsenal of rookie cards, game-used cards, autos, and graded cards. Check their fully searchable website out by Googling Newman Sports Cards. It's the first thing that comes up. Click on that link. Or follow them on the social medias at Newman_sportscards at Instagram, or at Twitter at Nooms Sports Cards, or give them a call or text at 315-491-0239. It's time for From the Box Seat. Let's head to the world of sports. Michigan has a new head basketball coach, and his name is very familiar to the program. Juwan Howard returns to coach his alma mater. In playoffs in basketball, Golden State has wrapped up their series with a sweep while Toronto and Milwaukee beat each other up for the rights to lose to Golden State in the championship. In the NHL, the Stanley Cup final is set. Two teams not expected to be there are both there. The Boston Bruins and the St. Louis Blues. And the Blues are riding a hot young goalie, which is what I said could happen when you get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's exactly what's happening at this point. To baseball, some news there. Something that's pretty rare. I'm not aware of it ever occurring before, but a Major League Baseball draft prospect, Carter Stewart, is spurning the Major League draft not to go to college or remain in college, but to play in Japan. So I guess he got an $18 million Japanese offer, which is more than he would get at the Major League draft level. He was drafted by the Braves. He did fail a physical for a skateboard injury when he was younger on his wrist. So I guess the Braves lowballed him with the signing offer, and he said, "Thanks, but no thanks. I'll go to Japan and play baseball for a few years, and then maybe come back then." So the way it sets up, if he returns when he's about 25 years back to the States, he'll probably get, if he plays well in Japan, he'll get a lucrative contract back here, even after the lucrative contract he would get in Japan. So he's hedging his bets. He's a Scott Boras client. No surprise really there. So to my recollection, I don't know if this has ever been done before with someone that young. I know American players have went over there to play, but not, high school, college age, and spurn the Major League Baseball draft. So kind of interesting, kind of precedent setting, turning to baseball. A lot of guys are red hot. Gleyber Torres says he wants to play the Orioles every day as he fattens up his stats just against them alone. But he's red hot, looking like he may be everything he was built to be. Vladimir Guerrero continues to hit. So I think some of those worries, early worries, are subsiding. Chris Bryant, who a lot of people were starting to jump off the Chris Bryant boat. Some people are starting to jump back on. He's playing well. Gary Sanchez playing well. A lot of injuries, too, in the game, allowing a lot of young guys to get call-ups. And the most recent one now is Craig Biggio's son, Kevin. Kevin's going to join another Hall of Famer son in Guerrero Jr. on the Toronto Blue Jays roster. So you got Biggio and Guerrero, part 2, if you will. So that's always interesting. So it's like I said on the last show, it's great to see these young guns kind of influx all these leagues, and I think it bodes well for the future of the hobby. Chris Long retired from the NFL, but that's not what made the most news about that. He also admitted being a fairly decent pot user and says that usage in the league is more than people realize. I don't know, if that's really breaking news, but I think his comments are a little startling. I'm always leery when guys kind of retire and then start talking, but Chris, from all accounts, is actually a very nice guy, very good guy. So I don't doubt the validity of what he's saying. I don't know what effect, if any, it will really have. I just think it was a little bit eye-opening for people. Golden State, as I already said, is just waiting to get their next ring to see who their sacrifice from the Eastern Conference will be, as they beat up on each other and wear each other out. So there'll be easy pickings for Golden State. But Golden State, again, is doing all this damage without Kevin Durant in the lineup. So it's looking more and more like he may not be returning to Golden State, but you never know. Sometimes I don't always believe, everything I hear. And speaking of what I'm hearing, it looks like LeBron James is already starting to recruit other players from other teams to come play with him in the Lakers, and it'll be interesting to see who he attracts, if anybody. I'm sure he will, but it'll be interesting to see who goes there, because he's kind of getting that rep of selfish me, spoiled brat kind of player, if you will, and I think that blooms a little bit off the rose. You got a team that didn't make the playoffs. He pointed some fingers, critical comments, and I didn't think he made many friends. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what the Lakers roster looks like when the season starts next year, the new season, and we'll have to see. Defensive end, Ndamukong Suh, has a new address. He's going to take up residence in Tampa Bay, and as he signs a contract with the Buccaneers, and this is a guy that has a rep as a good player, but a dirty one, and I think that's kind of shown with how many teams he's played on. He really hasn't, especially as of late and recently, he hasn't stuck on one team very long. I think, people love the talent. I don't think they like the baggage that comes with him. So he's kind of like on a tour here where it seems like every 1 or 2 years he has to find a new place to play. And he's a potential Hall of Fame type defender, but I just wonder if all this team hopping is really going to hurt his chances to actually get in the Hall. So we'll see how that works out in Tampa Bay. Will that be his last stop? Is it just a stepping stone on the way to another location? But you can't argue with the talent. It's all that periphery stuff that really kind of gives him or teams a bad taste in their mouth. Well, another episode in the books. Episode 27 is a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the guest we had on today, Jon Shestakofsky from the Hall of Fame. Special shout out to him. Thank you for giving us your time, telling us about what's going on in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame. I want to just say to everyone, thank you for being with us. It's been almost 7 months now. The amount of people we have listening to the show is still mind-boggling to me. I had no idea that this was where the show would go. I'm ecstatic, and I want to thank you folks out there for making the show what it is. Okay, without you, I know I've said this numerous times, and I'll never stop saying it. Without you guys, we don't have a show. So we appreciate it. We're thankful for it. We want to keep bringing you as great of a content as we can, like today's episode. And, thanks for making us who we are. I can tell you, I've got a guest and interview list that's starting to run off the page. Now the problem is trying to get everybody, on and scheduled and not make people wait too long. We're doing an episode a week, but those are good problems to have. And so, we want to bring you great content, great guests. That's our goal, and that's what we're trying to do. So thanks for being with us. So like I usually do, I always close the show with the famous words from one of my favorite music artists, Billy Joel.
Don't take any shit from anybody, and I mean it.
You've been listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Join host John Newman next week as he gives you another jam-packed episode of all things related to the sports card hobby. And a little extra fun, too. Don't forget to check out the show on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast.